Welcome back, folks. My name's Shane. In today's video, we're checking out this TTArtisan AF 75mm f2 prime lens for the L mount. And all of the samples today, at least outside, will be shot using the LUMIX S9. One of the criticisms people have had of the L mount is that there's not enough affordable third-party autofocus lenses out there. While there's plenty of manual focus affordable lenses, there's not a lot of autofocus lenses. But this is starting to change, which makes this a really great day if you're shooting on an S9, you're looking for something a little bit different from the standard LUMIX lenses or third-party brands that have only manual focus. Before we get into this video, just a quick disclaimer, TTArtisan have provided this to the channel for this particular review video. They haven't paid me to make this video and all thoughts are my own, but they have provided the sample, which is why it says paid promotion somewhere on screen. If you want to take a look at this, I'll link it down below, and again, I think you'll be pretty shocked at the price. Let's get into it. Included in the box, we get an instruction manual, warranty card, a little tasty treat. Actually, I'm only joking, don't eat these. And we also get the lens, which is wrapped in plastic. The lens itself has a really nice focus ring. It feels nice and fluid under the fingers, and we get a clicked aperture ring, which allows us to go from f2 all the way down to f16, or we can lock it off onto automatic mode so we can control the aperture via the camera's controls. Another thing I can really appreciate about this lens is that it only weighs 328 grams, and I'll leave the ounces or pounds or something on screen if you live overseas. So yeah, it's a very lightweight lens, and this is down to most of the lens here feeling like plastic, but the rear lens mount itself with all of the terminals actually is metal, which is really cool. And of course we get terminals because you've got aperture controls and it has autofocus. So let's hook it up and we'll see what we can get out of it. Included, we get a front and rear lens cap and this lens hood. Now, with this rear lens cap here, it has a USB-C port, so you can hook this up to a computer. It will be detected as a drive and you can update the firmware nice and simply. Just drag and drop it and you're good to go. Maybe my only complaint with the build quality here is that the lens hood feels a little bit cheap and it's a little bit awkward to get it to lock back into place. So yeah, minus that small critique, it works fine and it's nice and light, which is a positive, but yeah, it's just a little bit on the flimsy feeling side compared to other lenses. All right, I've got the lens hooked up to my LUMIX S9 and this is how it looks. So this is the TTArtisan AF 75mm f2 at f2, and this is how it looks. Now I'm just using my custom picture profile here, and odds are this is going to create some really beautiful subject separation and background blur. So for video, this kind of lens is great if you want a tight headshot or you might be doing something like an interview. These kind of lenses really make it easy. And being that we get so much compression and background blur, all that kind of stuff, it's also great for cinematography. If you want to do a short film or something like that, and you need this particular focal length, it's going to be a really great choice. Now for photography, this is a really great option for portraits, or anytime you want to create a professional sort of headshot, or full body shot like this is going to give you excellent results. We'll test that coming up in just a bit. But yeah, for video, I think it's going to give you a really premium look based on the fact it's f2 and 75mm. It's going to create a really cool look that should really separate me from the background behind me. All right, let's do an autofocus test using the full area with human detection on. I've just walked into frame. Did it find me? Now, if this does anything weird, I'll comment on it in just a moment. But this is with human detection on. It looks like it's working fine. It's got the yellow box around me like this, which is great. I'll jump out of frame and come back in at a few different points just to see how it responds or if it has any issues finding me again once I exit the frame. So it looks like it's good. Jump out of frame, jump back in. Looks like it's found me. As I move toward the minimum focus, it still got me in focus. Look how blurry this background is, even at f2 here. So 75mm at f2 is going to give you crazy levels of compression. Even back here, there's still going to be background blur, and odds are you can see most of my body in the shot here. So yeah, let's do a quick test here with the autofocus. I'll just run up a little bit quicker and I'll comment on this a little bit later on, but let's try 1 area plus mode. All right, now I've got it set up for 1 area plus. So I put a 1 area plus box right in the center with human tracking. I'm just going to move outside of the box to here, so it should now go to the background, about there actually. And then as I go over the box, it's going to pull focus back to me, outside of the box and inside the box, which it's just a little bit sluggish there. Now I've tested this a few times and I did see it struggle a few times as well, but it did manage to find me eventually. But it's definitely not quite as responsive, I don't think, as the native LUMIX lenses, but it seems like it's doing a great job once it has the box up and the tracking mode enabled. The only time it's slipped up so far is if I exit the frame and then come back in. Looks like it's working fine now, but there's been a few scenarios or tests where it didn't quite find me fast enough, but looks like it's fine. Let us know what you think. One of the funny things with YouTube, I sometimes have to do things 3 or 4 times to get it right. It's just the way that it goes. So I ended up doing that autofocus test a few times, and here's an example of it failing on camera. I couldn't see it at the time because I'm actually standing quite a ways back, but the autofocus, once it actually has you in the frame, it's fine, but it is definitely more sluggish than some of the native primes from Panasonic. Let's do a quick focus breathing test here, just holding the camera up at roughly the minimum focus of 75 centimeters. So if I bring the camera out of shot, you can see just how far it zooms out. If I bring it back in, you're going to see just how far it zooms in on the corner of frame. So yeah, if you're a video shooter, pulling focus from minimum to infinity, you are going to see some focus breathing. But again, for the price, you can make your mind up whether or not that's a deal breaker. If you're a video shooter, there's a few cool things that you need to know about when it comes to this particular lens. Now, while this is a focus by wire lens, so there's no hard stops on either side, it is fully compatible with the LUMIX linear focusing mode found in the camera. So you can set up how many degrees you need to turn the focus ring to pull focus repeatably and reliably. Let's do a handheld video test. So right now I've got IS boost mode off. So this is fully handheld. You can see from my shadow, I've got the camera in my hand, and now with the IS boost mode on. And as you can see, it's locked it off beautifully. Now I've got the rule of thirds on screen, and I can see that it's not moving much whatsoever, even at 75mm. So this is really impressive. And back with it off, if I say want to pan over here, and then I can turn it back on, IS boost mode locks it down beautifully. My only nitpick with this lens so far is that it doesn't have an autofocus manual focus switch, and if I'm shooting with my S9, there's no clutch on the back to switch the camera from autofocus to manual focus, so I have to do it within the menu system of the camera, which kind of sucks. So yeah, if you have an S5 Mark II or X or any of the other LUMIX cameras, this probably won't be an issue because there's a switch on the back of the camera, but on the S9 there isn't one, so I want to point that out. Let's test out this 75mm lens for filmmaking. So what I'm going to do is just put together a 30-second sample reel, shot all with the LUMIX S9 and this TTArtisan lens, and then I'll talk about the experience. Here we go. All right, let's talk about the overall shooting experience. So one of the few things I've noticed with this lens is if you want to pull focus to minimum focus, it's much easier in manual focus mode than trying to rely on the autofocus. Otherwise, you need to set up a pretty small one area box for it to actually find minimum focus properly. There are a few times where I was just shooting leaves and there was nothing happening, so I just had to shoot manually in those scenarios. But most of that was shot at f4 and f8, and I think the results look pretty cool. Now, while it's not a cinematic color grading or whatever, I actually was pretty impressed with the overall end result. So if you're shooting weddings or short films, this would be a really great choice. Let's have a look at the Sunstars and flaring. So this lens definitely suffers from some blue flaring, as you can see on both the lower left-hand corner and top right-hand side. And this is at f11. If I stop down to f16, we get more blue orbs, and the Sunstars actually look a little worse to my eye, but you can be the judge. This is f11 again, f8, 5.6. The flaring seems way less at 5.6. f4, 2.8. Looks pretty clean in terms of flaring, and f2. So that wraps up all of the video tests. Now, if I missed something or if you have any questions, let us know in the comment section and I'll reply as soon as I can. We're going to grab the GoPro and take some photos down at one of the parks around here. So I hope you like this video. Again, if you do enjoy it, leave a thumbs up. I'm trying to grow the channel to 50K subs. So if you're not already subscribed, please do so. Click the bell, all that kind of stuff. It really helps. All right, let's grab the stuff and get out of here. Get the sunburn. I'm going to find my hat. Before we do the general purpose photography, I just want to showcase how this works for portraits. Let's take a look. Now, I shot all of this just using the LUMIX Lab app with the remote shutter. So I'm on my own shooting these, but I think the results look pretty nice. I ran some burst photography tests using this lens on the S9 with a one area box set up with human detection right in the center. As I walked towards the camera, the hit rate was quite respectable. Just note, anything in black and white means the shot is out of focus, but it got more in focus than out. I did a second test running towards the camera with the same autofocus settings, and it was a lot less reliable in this particular case, but it still did a pretty decent job. The shots that were in focus look fantastic, and I would have no problems recommending this if you're doing any sort of portrait work. All right, I got the LUMIX S9, the TTArtisan 75mm f1.2, and we're just going to do some general purpose photography, and I'll talk about my settings throughout the video. Here we go. Animal detection autofocus worked without any problems whatsoever, just like a native lens. Let's take a photo of this bridge. I always like taking a photo here. It's just got some really nice lines. I've just turned crop zoom on, and this allows me to punch all the way into 234mm. The autofocus still works beautifully. I accidentally had the camera set to the flat picture profile for this entire shoot, so I've added contrast and color in post. Now when it comes to balance, this actually feels great on the LUMIX S9. If I take the lens hood off, you can see just how compact this lens actually is. So if you're looking for a lightweight sort of run and gun travel lens, I think this would be a really great choice. All right, let's get a few photos of these statues here. I'll shoot all of these at f2.8. He's 4K 60 on the LUMIX S9, so this is with the APS-C crop, still running animal detection autofocus, and it's doing a really beautiful job. Let's do a quick chromatic aberration test. So I've just got this high contrast situation here, and I'm just taking a photo of the steel pole. I'm actually very impressed here. I don't see much in the way of chroma, maybe just a hair of purple fringing, but nothing to worry about. Again, for this price, I think it works great. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm gonna give you my final thoughts on this lens after using it for the last few hours. Now, in terms of feel, the focus ring is great. The aperture ring feels okay. It does feel quite cheap compared to some of my other lenses, but it is what it is. It is a less expensive lens, and I won't hold that against it. The fact that it actually has an aperture ring gets the big thumbs up. My only other small nitpick here is that the lens hood doesn't really feel that great in the hand, and it's a little bit hard to get on, as I already mentioned, but it allows you to stand the lens up, which I can appreciate, so I really like that. When it comes to the background blur and subject separation, I really like what this is doing. It's right up there with any other lens I've tested that's much more expensive, so I really like that. Chromatic aberration doesn't seem to be a huge problem with this lens, which is really cool, but it does have some lens flaring issues, and if you're shooting directly into the sun or into a light source, you're going to see those lens flares, but some people would call that character, so that's up to you. The colors and contrast all look really nice to my eye, and I really love how it renders the background. And if you're looking for a lens that can create really nice subject separation, and if you're not pushing the autofocus too far, I think you'll get a kick out of this. If you want to check it out, I'll link it below. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell, and set all notifications for future videos, and I will catch you on the next one. See ya.